Okay. Good morning, everyone. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to the Indo-Canadian Business Chamber AGM in New Delhi. In spite of the rain, the traffic, all of you have managed to be here and join us, and we are very grateful for that. The Chamber continues in its efforts to add value to its members, and we are very grateful that you all are part of this journey, part of this endeavor. So welcome to all of you, and let me now request Mr. Rakesh Nangia to just come up and complete the formalities of the AGM. Do not worry, it's a very, very short formality, and we'll continue the program.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the AGM of ICBC. So we have just to present the audited accounts for this year, what happened, the summary of the accounts. I'll just run it over briefly. Our revenue in this year, 2022-23, was very high. It went up by close to 100%. Last year, the revenue was so high. So Nadira, good job done. Your revenue was 100% more, basically. And preceding year, there was a loss, actually. And this year we converted into a 31 lakhs rupees of profit, which is close to 10% of my gross revenue. So this is a big improvement in terms of profit and in terms of growth of revenues there. The accounts have been duly audited. There are no qualifications. All filings have been done. All regulatory filings has all updated, basically. And we are getting richer, but we want to become more richer. So I have two requests to Nadira. One, we need to have more money in the bank. We are doing well. We have close to 3 crores rupees as an association. Is growing every year by year. We are close to 3 crores. But yes, the onus is the more we have it, the more liberally we can spend it on the programs and what we need to do that. So that that drive should continue, basically. And it's a small balance sheet, nothing more. That's all. So any comments, any thoughts, any issues you want to ask? Any people from Gujarat want to ask anything? Yeah, actually, that's the reason I told her. You see, you're doing a well job, a profit has been very good, but this drive should not stop, actually. You're having a good members all over. The membership is increasing. I think hopefully we see a more richer balance sheet, not a healthier balance sheet, more richer balance sheet. That's a better word. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
I wish I could have done it. That kind of profitability. Yes, exactly. In the chamber, you don't declare dividend. It's a non-profit chamber.
No, thank you. And as Jaimin said, ye dil mange more. Shivani behind me prodded me that chamber mange more. So there is, the more that we are able to get from your support, the more we will be able to give back to you. So as you said, it's a non-profit organization. Whatever we get, it's for the benefit of all of us. So thank you for your continued support. Thank you from coming, all our regional council members coming from all across India. Again, welcome, and we are very, very delighted to have you here with us. So let me quickly give you a very short recap of the year. Most of you know what all has been happening, but just I'll just highlight the main things. One is that a very robust membership growth. We've had, excellent corporate members. We've got startups who've joined us. We've got research centers, colleges. So it has just gone up. And in fact, some of the ones like World Trade Mumbai has, I'll just name a few fresh members who have just joined us in the recent months. So we have World Trade Mumbai, Axis Bank, Pratt and Whitney, Sandeep is here with us today. Maple Highways, Anup is here. Lululemon, Sonata Software, Bosch Global Software, Edelweiss, Apraava Energy, Org Signals, many other reputed firms. So we are very happy with the growth in membership, and we continue to seek more membership through pan-India and in Canada. The other event that is of note is the annual convention, the ICBC annual convention that took place on 28th of November. And it was the first in-person convention after 2 years because of the COVID situation that we had faced. The theme was Sustainable Industry, and we had Honorable R.K. Singh, Union Cabinet Minister of Power, New and Renewable Energy, Government of India, as a keynote speaker. He interacted with the financial organizations, with the pension funds, energy companies, and there was a good interaction, and we followed up for the companies on going forward as to what can be done, what challenges can be solved for them. Besides that, we also had Minister Honorable K.T. Ramarao, Minister for IT, Industries and Commerce. He was joined us virtually in the convention, and Minister Vic Fedeli from Ontario was also there. Then we had the annual gala, where we had Minister Melanie Joly. She was here, and the Minister for the International Affairs Minister, she was here, and we had a very good gala. We also had Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moore and his delegation. So, and leadership of many other important companies who were here at that time. Also, lastly, we had during the B20 Secretariat, we had a closed door session where Mr. Amitabh Kant took the time out to have a very good interaction with a few pension funds and one or two of the companies that have expanded into India. And he gave his time, came specially for that, and he had, in fact, handpicked the companies and the pension funds he wanted to speak to. So we had one of those. So we have continued, whether they are workshops, whether they are B2Bs, whether there are networking sessions, whether there are events, continue to do this to get people together, to get B2Bs, B2Gs, and we continue in these efforts. All this is possible, of course, with the guidance of our board of directors, the advice and guidance by them, and the leadership of our current president, Mr. Rakesh Aerath. You can see his dedication of Mr. Rakesh Aerath. Yesterday, notwithstanding the traffic, he arrived in Delhi, and today, notwithstanding the rain, he was here well on time. He has been giving time to the chamber besides his full-time work as heading CGI. And we have been very fortunate to have had him as a leader of the chamber. Thank you, Rakesh, for all your work. Unstinting support any time of the day or night. There have been times when you've just landed from Canada and joined a virtual meeting because we had set it up. And whenever we have invited you to come to Delhi, regardless of whether there was any other work, not waiting for some other meeting to line up with it, he has just come only for the chamber's work. And I thoroughly appreciate and recognize your contribution. And again, Rakesh, like I said to Anita when she left and you took over, now that Mr. Rakesh Aerath is moving on from president of ICBC, but I won't say outgoing, I will say ongoing, as I said to Anita, because we will continue to count on you, Rakesh, for your support. Not only with his support for the chamber, but he has also helped getting more members for us and revenue from other sources as well. So, Rakesh, would you like to please come and say a few words?
Thank you, Nadira, for the kind words, and good morning to all of you. It's been a great opportunity, I would say. So first of all, I would like to thank the board members and Nadira for giving me the opportunity to lead and be the national president for the last 1 year. It's been a great opportunity, I would say a huge privilege for me. Last year, it was very eventful, also because of the G20 year, and I would say at times challenging. But we have kept on doing whatever is best for the chamber and taking forward our agenda of improving the economic, trade relations, as well as the people-to-people relationship between the two countries. I would say in spite of the challenges, the team conducted various events, and as Nadira alluded to, various events during the day. And I would say that the team, ICBC team, has been very positively motivated. And as Anita mentioned to me when I took over, that you have to just provide guidance and some direction to the team. And the team is highly motivated to do the things. And I would say the same to the next president who's taking over, that you don't have to spend a lot of effort. You have to just give some time, and the team does fantastic work. And I would say this year it was very challenging because of various things which political as well, where we don't have influence as the chamber members, but the chamber continued to do the efforts, and we have seen amazing results. As Mr. Rakesh Nangia mentioned, I'm very fortunate, I would say. I did not make tremendous contribution to the fact, but I'm very fortunate that when we took over, it was in red, and the last year, during my tenure, it has moved to the black, and we are profitable, although we are a non-profit organization, but we are profitable. So Nadira keeps telling me, don't tell it too loudly because we still need the support. We still need the support of all the members and sponsors so that, as he mentioned, Dil Mange More, we can be stronger, and we can take this relationship between India and Canada even further. I'm happy to, I would say, hand over the reins to the next president. At the same time, as she mentioned, I'll continue in the national board and provide all the support required to ICBC and the board members to take the agenda forward. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Rakesh. The South is very big on our agenda, so we will keep counting on you for that. And now I would like to welcome, it is a great privilege for all of us to welcome Mr. Piyush Patnaik, Head of McCain, as the new President of the Indo-Canadian Business Chamber. Thank you, Piyush. Please come and sit.
Thank you very much, Nadira. I really feel honored to be standing here and deeply privileged for the invite and the opportunity. Thank you, board members. Thanks a lot, Rakesh. I'm feeling a bit taller. Of course, standing on the shoulders of work done by stalwarts before me, and super achievement in the last 12 months, Rakesh, and really inspiring work. Yes, I am comforted by what I saw from the work that the team has done. And I recognize that my work is to make sure that I add a little bit of my experience in the industries that I have worked in to add a little more flavor and expand that. Very committed to work within the broad vision that is set for by ICBC, and superly proud that I have the opportunity to work with the ICBC team. Thank you very much, and thanks a lot. Look forward to it.
Thank you, Piyush. We very much look forward to working with you. In fact, McCain is one example of a great partnership between India and Canada, and we hope that with your leadership, there will be many more such partnerships. Let me now also announce the new chairpersons of our regional councils. So I'm really happy and delighted to announce the name of Mr. Sandeep Sharma, who is the Managing Director of India Operations at Pratt Whitney, Canada, as the Bangalore Regional Chairperson. Sandeep has come here today to be with us. Sandeep, why don't you just come and say a few words? Just at least even a hello would be good. Yeah.
Thank you, Nadira. And I was not expecting that I have to speak anything, but good morning. And just like the rest of the speakers so far, I'm very proud and privileged to be contributing to this forum. I think the forum has a very noble cause, a lot of potential in terms of the expansion opportunities between the two countries in both ways. Rarely we have historically seen, a lot of money coming into India, but now a lot of money going out of India as well. So, really, this is my initial days in India back from, US and Canada. I've been out for almost 15 years. Very progressive and very dynamic in terms of the scope that we see in India from Canada now and now in India. It's really, for me, I think few initial months would be to learn as to what is being done and then see what my contribution could be in whatever way possible. But very excited, and thanks again for the opportunity. And I have old friends here already that I've been engaging, but getting to know you all a bit more and in the coming days and months. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep. And again, as I said, with our agenda of the South, yourself and Rakesh Aerath and, with all of you there, we are going to be really expanding more and focusing more on the south. We have also the new Gujarat Regional Council chairperson. We also have the outgoing chairperson, Namrata. Namrata, thank you for joining us today and coming here. And she has had a great year with Gujarat. And now I would like to invite Mr. Dharam Chudasma, Director, Our World Leisure Limited, as the new chairperson for the Gujarat Regional Council. Dharam, please come and just say a few words.
Thank you, Nadira ji, and the whole board. Likewise, I was also not expected, that I might have to speak. But in which case, I've been associated with the chamber for past 2.5 years now, and been meeting people and seeing things, and coming from Canada for after 20 years, staying there, doing business in Canada, and again doing business in India, has helped me a lot understand both the business environment, and I think that would be my contribution in ICBC to bring more and more business for both the countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We look forward to Dharam. He's already organized a fabulous event on the 27th of September with a lot of Bollywood coming into Ahmedabad, and it's with Gujarat Tourism. So everybody is invited, and we'll put the invite out, Dharam, so that, and please let's meet in Ahmedabad next on the 27th of September. Like to please, of course, Mr. Rakesh Nangia, whom you've already met, founder and managing partner of Nangia and Company LLP. Rakesh, I know that we really impose on you. We take advantage of your expertise to always bail us out, on compliance issues, on account issues. And he's always there. And for a money-making person to give so much time where he could be otherwise making more money, we really thank you for that. Mr. Arun Pandya, General Manager and Country Head, Air Canada. Arun, thank you for all your support. You have been a partner ever since I came on board, and you remain a very valued partner. So thank you for that support, and I think you have been the backbone of the chamber. Thank you very much, Arun, and we will keep counting on you. So we don't let go of Air Canada so easily, so it will be a part not only of our valued partner. No, counting. No, Arun, counting tickets. With Rakesh Nangia's counting money, with you, we'll be counting the tickets.
Yesterday, you have committed a special code for ICBC.
Yes, so that has been endorsed. So now Air Canada will have a special code for ICBC members. Please take advantage of that.
You can book it, I'm going to float it through Nagara's office, and then you can apply the code on the Air Canada website, and then book your
Yeah, so you don't need to then get in touch with anybody. You can do it directly on your own as part of the ICBC team. That's a great, thank you, Arun. That's a great announcement to make, and we'll put that out. Then we have Ritika Modi, who's not here with us. She's the regional president of Uniglobe Travel South Asia. She's traveling. Then we have Saurabh Bhatia, director, Arcadis IBI Group. I don't know if Saurabh is here, but they have IBI is also one of the oldest Canadian companies, IT companies in India, and they have always been a partner. Mr. Rontu Basu. Partner, Quest Partners, big partner for the chamber. He has always been a part of the chamber, right from the very beginning. Led Mumbai, through a lot of its turbulent times, and even now he's always gives us a lot of advice and guidance. Thank you, Rontu, for always being here for us. Mr. Jaimin Shah, co-founder and managing director, Dev Information Technology Limited. Again, a very big success story of an Indian company in Canada. Ever since I've known him, it has expanded and expanded all over Canada, all over India. He's also gone into different verticals. He's been leading leadership, part of a leadership of NASSCOM. He has been part of our leadership, and for Gujarat, he has been like a leading light for us. Thank you, Jaimin, for your support. Mr. Vinay Chaudhary is our overseas director, but as the time is there, he's not able to join us at the moment. And we have Jennifer Daubonnet, who's a Minister Commercial for the High Commission of Canada. She's our ex-officio member, a director rather, but she's not, couldn't be, she isn't here in Delhi at this time. So with this, our board of directors, and again, let me give a big thank you to the board for being really for guiding us throughout. Thank you to our members, thank you to our partners, and also a big thank you to my team. As both Rakesh Aerath and Piyush have said, that it is because of the team that we're able to do what we do. And I will thank all of them, starting from Shivani is right here. Shivani, Sapna, Pallavi, again a big stalwart from the south. Shavik is around, and then we have Rashmi and Olinda outside. So I really wish to thank my team and acknowledge their contribution. And Prithvi is in Gujarat, so thanks, Jemin, for standing up for the Gujarat. So thank you very much. And with this, I think we will end the formal part of the AGM. Let's, again, if anyone would like another cup of tea, but just feel free to network. And then in about another 15-20 minutes, we will start with the formal discussion. We're expecting the High Commissioner to be here in another 15 minutes, as well as the High Commission team. So we'll wait for them and begin. But so far, thank you very much. And with this, we end the AGM. Hello, everybody. Thank you very, very much for joining us today. A very warm welcome to you in spite of the traffic, in spite of the rains. A lot of our members from all across India have managed to make it to Delhi and have joined us on this special occasion of the ICBC AGM. We had a very important announcement today. One is that we would like to congratulate and thank our outgoing president, Mr. Rakesh Aerath, who heads CGI, for his tremendous contribution, unstinting support to the chamber. As he said earlier in his speech at the AGM, that this last year has been turbulent, and he has been there at the head. Also that it has turned, our revenues have become better in this last year. And all thanks to your leadership and guidance, Rakesh. Thank you to all the board of directors who are here with us today. Our new chairpersons, we have the Bangalore chairperson, Mr. Sandeep Sharma, who is head of Pratt Whitney. He takes over. We have the Gujarat Regional Council chairperson, Mr. Dharam Chudasma, who is here. He takes over as Gujarat Regional chairperson. And the Maharashtra Regional Council by Shilpa Saad, but who is head of TD Bank, but she couldn't make it today. But we are grateful for this, for the new board, and of course our old board continues. As I was telling Rakesh Aerath, he's not only our outgoing but our ongoing president, as we will continue to call on him for advice. We're very, very happy to welcome the new president of the Indo-Canadian Business Chamber, Mr. Piyush Patnaik, head of McCain. Just give him a good welcome applause. We look forward to your guidance, Piyush, and as Rakesh navigated us through this year, we look forward to your navigating us to the next year and bringing in even more membership, even more revenue as we move forward. You hear that? I'd also like to thank, along with my board, the members for being with us, for continuing your faith and your confidence in us. And it is with your membership that we have grown, evolved in the last few years. And we hope that we can add even more value to you through our services, help you strengthen and expand your business, whether it is in India or in Canada. We are a bilateral chamber, and we look after the interests of companies, whether they're in India or Canada. I must thank all our provinces who are here, most of them who are here today. British Columbia with Prashant Nair, he is here. Saskatchewan, headed by Scott Matthews. We have Invest Alberta with Ruma here. We have EDC with Vibhav. And anyone, I think Ontario is not here at the moment, or Quebec, but I think the rest of the provinces are, whoever's based in Delhi is here with us today. Thank you very much for being here. Invest India for your partnership, CII and FICCI, that they are here. I'd like to acknowledge all our members, and then a very, very big thank you to the High Commissioner of Canada to India. Your Excellency, you have been there for us at every corner, and really appreciate your support. Without that, I don't think we would be able to go on. We wouldn't be able to do what we do. So thank you for reposing faith in us and standing by us always. I'd also like to thank Annabelle, who is here, the head of trade. I know that Annabelle is, even when she's out hiking or trekking, she responds to every message. So thank you, Annabelle, for always being there for us. I will acknowledge our other board because everybody's here. Air Canada with Arun Pandya, Rontu Basu. We have, Namrata is here from Gujarat. Jaimin Shah is here. All our board. Anyone, if I am leaving out anybody, excuse me, but I'm going to keep coming back. If you like it or not, I'll be there throughout this session. So I will keep, Mr. Rakesh Nangia, of course. I will keep acknowledging whoever I have missed out. Thank you to Ms. Karamjeet Kaur, who is Director with the Department of Industry Promotion and Trade Promotion. She has joined us here today. Mr. Rajat Saini, CEO of NICDC, who is here. And I also want to quickly acknowledge Mr. Arun Singh, who's former High Commissioner of India to USA. He's here today. Thank you, Arun, for joining us. Now, I just quickly, before I hand it over to Mr. Piyush Patnaik to speak, I just want to say a couple of words about the India-Canada relationship and what we as a chamber are doing towards strengthening it further. So India and Canada are natural partners. Canada has the expertise, it has the technology, it has the resources. India has the talent, India has the requirement as a very fast growing, developing nation. And where there is a natural partnership, no impediments can really put them apart because people see opportunity and seize it. So where business and economy is concerned, perfect partnership between India and Canada. The second most important thing is the people-to-people connection. People-to-people for India and Canada, they are the kind of bond that has been there throughout and which continues to stand firm is the people-to-people connection. So wherever I have been, I can tell you that ever since I've been with the chamber, every single day, there hasn't been one instance where I haven't heard someone say, oh, my son is in Canada, or my father's in Canada, or I'm going to Canada. How can I go to Canada? Can you get me a visa? So, these questions will continue to be there, and we are happy that they are there because it just shows how much interest, how much love, and how much motivation we have to be, for Indians have to go to Canada, but equally Canadians are investing in Canada. We have Anup Vikal with Maple Highways, we have CDPQ, they are the investors into India. We have big companies like CGI and McCain who have invested and are success stories in India. Dev IT, which is a big success in Canada. So these are success stories, and we will continue to exemplify them and show them off to show how great a partnership this is. For the chamber, how have we managed to take, these are the two potentials, as I said, people-to-people connection and the natural partnership. What we have done as a chamber is continue to keep communication channels open at any time, every time, whatever the situation may be, whatever the global situation, whatever the outward situation is, we keep the channels open because business continues to grow. You cannot stop it from growing, and it will continue to grow. We keep communication channels open. We identify opportunities both for Canadian companies in India, Indian companies in Canada. We identify not only the opportunities, but partnership for collaboration. We try and find solutions to problems that are faced by companies, by our government, by partnering with organizations like Invest India, by the DPIIT, the government in India, the government in Canada, and try and find solutions through having closed-door sessions. And finally, what is really important is that we continue to for ensuring outcomes, because all the networking, all the gatherings, all the meetings are finally towards an outcome. So, wherever we feel that they need a handhold, wherever we feel we can guide them, we are here as a chamber to handhold and to offer our support to the High Commission of Canada in what they do here. We have the best of leadership here today. We have His Excellency Cameron MacKay has been here through the years. He has all the time been all over India, talking to people, meeting people. He stays, he stays till the end at our programs where every single person wants to be photographed with him. And he continues to smile till the last photograph. So really, really grateful for that. Annabelle, you have also been a big support to us, always there for all our events and joining us. I just want to, again, while I thank everybody, and I now hand it over to Mr. Piyush Patnaik to say a few words. Just want to say once again that thank you very much to all of you for joining us today. And we look forward to a great session when we have our panel discussion. And of course, we look forward to the High Commissioner's remarks. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Piyush Patnaik, Head of McCain and the new President of the ICBC, to say a few words.
Thank you, Nadira. Your Excellency, High Commissioner Cameron MacKay, Mr. Rajat Saini, CEO in ICDC, members of the board of ICBC, friends. I'm really privileged to be standing here and taking on a mantle which is so ably done and guided by Rakesh in the past year, and a lot of luminaries in the previous years before that. What inspires is, I was talking to a previous CEO of ICBC, and the easy remark was the sapling that has grown to a tree, and how does the tree become a bigger one to give shade for all of us, is probably the work that is cut out. And it's lovely to see this room. It's lovely to see the kind of profile of people who are part of this. And it also promises to be far more broader in the coming years. I want to share something which is, because McCain is a really, really big success story for a Canadian company having made it in India. And it's coincidental that McCain is completing 25 years in India. So in 1998, when it came to India and talked about a product which nobody knew, and spent 6 years just talking about it in farmers, and built it up from there. And a lot of you already know the story, so I'm not going to repeat it. But it's phenomenal how in the last 24, 36 months, the tide has changed in the way India is looked at by global corporations. And I speak for a lot of us, particularly in the consumer goods industry and ag and food space. It's obvious to do with geopolitical, but a lot to do with also the way India is now becoming a market which is not just for make in India for India, but make in India for also the world. I was very happy, Arun, when you talked about the air ticket, because we're buying a lot more air tickets, because the number of trips by the senior executives from the company to India in the last 12 months is double of the trips that we have made in the last 5. So obviously happier with those things. And that just shows where we are going. And I speak for a lot of friends in the industry who are eyeing Indian market with, if you're not present in India, at least have a partner. If you're present in India, figure out what's the best way to grow. If you're really strong in India, how do you make it a base for the world? I think everybody is looking at the next step of where they are. And I think ICBC has a role to play in facilitating people navigate that journey. Some of us who have been fortunate to work in companies which have already been here for a long time can certainly be players and partners to help and help navigate. The High Commission is always extremely, extremely helpful in terms of facilitating what we are trying to achieve. And a lot of people here have the experience which we are going to carry. And I'm going to make one last request. I'm going to count on a lot of you for doing the work that has been cut out for me. And thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you so much, Nangia.
Now it is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Cameron MacKay, High Commissioner for Canada, to the ICBC AGM. You need no introduction, but maybe just a line or two to say that he is a career diplomat with foreign policy and trade negotiation experience in Asia, Europe, and the Americas. And before coming to India, had many important positions in the Canadian government across the world. Extraordinary experience in public sector leadership, governance, and trade negotiations, as he was the chief negotiator for Canada's free trade agreement negotiations with Panama in the past. We hope that with your presence here, maybe some more trade negotiations happen, but we'll leave that we leave that aside just now. It is our privilege that we enjoy your unwavering patronage and support to carry forward our objectives. And I'd like to invite you now here to come and address our members and guests. Your Excellency.
Nadira, thank you so much to you and your team, to ICBC, for all of the work that you've done over the many years. And not just you in the leadership role, but there's a whole team of folks at the back of the room, I hope we all recall, that put these events together and that work day in, day out to support the Canada-India business relationship. So, Piyush, congratulations. It's a big role. I look forward to working with you. A job well done to take it this far. And whereas Rakesh, thank you so much for everything that you've done over the last year. Really outstanding work. I think everyone knows that India hosted a big summit last weekend, and my Prime Minister visited. Once again, it was a very memorable visit by Prime Minister Trudeau to India. But maybe first just a word about the summit itself. Of course, it was seen, I think, around the world as a little bit of a coming out party for India. Those of us who spend a lot of time thinking about India, from outside, we live here now, we work, we think about India all the time, and we know how much opportunity there is here. But now I think everyone on the planet, knows that. It was a big success for Indian diplomacy. Some of the big issues that were agreed by leaders at the summit included additional commitments to try to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, new membership for the African Union into the permanent seat at the G20 table. These were big accomplishments, I think, by India. Terrific diplomacy on the part of Minister Jai Shankar and Amitabh Kant as the Sherpa to finally get a joint declaration that included agreed language on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. I think, as Prime Minister Trudeau said, frankly, Canada would have liked that language to be much stronger than it was. We feel very strongly about this illegal and unjustified invasion, but the G20 operates by consensus, and there were others who had very different views. The important thing is that we all agreed on a statement at the end. Prime Minister Trudeau, when he was here, had some very important interactions with Prime Minister Sunak from the UK, with the head of the World Bank, other bilateral meetings and pull-asides in the Leaders' Lounge. I can say the Leaders' Lounge at a G20 summit is always an interesting place to be, because this whole cast of characters, you see them all together and they walk up to one another and say, let's go have a coffee and chat about this and that. That's one of the great values of a summit. And I think, as everyone in the room is well aware, there was also a bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Trudeau and Prime Minister Modi, with a lot of media coverage about what they had discussed, about, frankly, the tension in their relationship between the two of them and between the two governments. There was some finger-pointing going both ways. The Indian media reports it a particular way. The opposition party in Canada, skews a slightly different version of that. The government of Canada has its own story. I'll simply say that that is what it is. This sometimes happens between governments, and the two leaders did have a very frank discussion about the concerns on both sides, and this is part of what diplomacy is about. And Canada and India have a very mature very complete relationship, and this is what mature countries do, and we don't always get along about particular things. So sometimes there's an irritant in the relationship, and our job, frankly, is to manage it, try to keep it on its own track, do what we can to resolve it, sometimes accept that there may be irreconcilable differences between two countries, have that dialogue over here while we continue developing the whole rest of the relationship, because Nadra, as you and Piyush have said, this is a very mature, very well developed, very deep relationship. People to people is maybe kind of the ballast or the heart of it. But we're here today to talk about the business to business, and business to business, there's a lot of it, and we should be doing much more. So let me say that, I mean, I think many of you who have heard me speak before, I've talked about the depth of that commercial relationship. It's now up to over $125 billion. That's led by nearly $90 billion of Canadian institutional and portfolio investment into India. I say that's Canadian capital helping to build India, infrastructure, real estate, renewable energy, the biggest Canadian pension plans, Fairfax, Brookfield leading on that, plus bilateral trade in goods and services, which last year was a record-breaking $23 billion. And frankly, I expect this year it's going to be higher still. Plus foreign direct investment, like McCain, Canadian foreign direct investor, now actually manufacturing in India. We are also here in the auto parts sector, Linamar, Magna, to give you a couple of examples, and very significant Indian investment back into Canada as well, nearly $7 billion, directly employing over 17,000 Canadians, with some of the biggest Indian investors coming back. So you put all that together and you get this very significant $125 billion relationship, which should be even bigger than it is. I think we all know that. I think one of the key messages in light of all of this that I wanted to leave with you today is, let's not let political tensions get in the way of mutually advantageous business-to-business relations. I think it could be the case that now is not the time for government to lead business to develop this further, but I want to assure you that the Canadian government will always be there to support the business-to-business relationship. And as you touched on, Nadra, the Canadian government and the Trade Commissioner Service have a very significant presence across India, 50 Canadian Trade Commissioners at 8 offices across the country, plus representatives from 6 provincial governments, plus Export Development Canada here on the capital side of things, plus very regular business visits by the biggest Canadian business leaders, et cetera, to the country. We've seen that over the last year. We will see more in the fall. So from the government side of things, I know I speak for the federal and provincial governments, we will always be here to support, no matter what happens in terms of political tensions over in the other, the other corner of the room. And that includes not just business to business, but let me mention as well educational linkages. We have, for example, the president of York University in town today. There's a significant dinner tomorrow. That's just one example of one very important Canadian academic institution that is developing its ties here. Also science and technology, also agricultural collaboration, very deep collaboration on climate change and environmental protection. So all of that will absolutely continue no matter what happens. I think one thing that has really impressed me in the years that I have worked with businesses in Canada, and now over the last few years working with businesses in India, is just how important and how creative business leadership can be. And I think, in terms of resilience in the face of adversity, I think in terms of innovation, to overcome, new challenges, and I think in the coming months and years, we'll need that even more from the bilateral business community. And I look forward to supporting you on all of that, and I know that my whole team does as well. So thank you very much, and I very much look forward to the panel discussion and meeting more of you as the morning goes on. Thank you. Thanks, Nadra.
So all set for the panel discussion. Mr. Rakesh Nangia is going to be moderating and facilitating the conversation. So it promises to be very interesting, interactive. Please feel free to ask questions, interrupt, and have a good time. And not, I think it's going to be very interesting. Rakesh, please come. And would you then invite the others to come on? I'll invite? Okay, so please come. Mr. Piyush Patnaik, Mr. Rakesh Aerath, Mr. Arvind Mehra, and Mr. Rajat Saini. Over to you, Rakesh.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, His Excellency, for kicking started, sharing about it, what I was supposed to start. But thank you so much for kick-starting the G20. Before we just go to the nuances, before we go to the direct questions or subjects, let me rewind a little bit, actually, about explaining about G20 for the G20. What is G20? Actually, it's a group of 20 countries, which is a premier forum for international economic cooperation. It plays an extremely important role in shaping and strengthening global architecture and governance of all international economic issues. How does it work actually, G20? How it started actually? The G20 originated in 1999. I just want to take a minute out of it. In response to the Asian financial crisis which happened in 97, 98, and initially the governors and the finance ministry were the members of that. At the time of another crisis in 2008, the global financial crisis, the G20 expanded to include the heads of the state of member countries. This is how it started actually. We know the countries which are there, just to name it: US, Canada, UK, Japan, China, Russia. If you see that, it takes 80% of the GDP of the world actually. These are the members today of G20. And we are privileged, as we said, that except two heads of the state, every head of the state was there. It was actually a mind-blowing, blockbuster event. Never actually I can recall it in the history of India, which got so much of publicity, so much of success actually. And leaders all over the world, if you see the media coverage and everything, hailed India's successful diplomacy, presidency, which was not only help heavily divided bloc, there was heavily divided bloc, and to reach a consensus, like High Commissioner just mentioned, you have to take any decision, it has to be consensus. It cannot be like that, basically. This was a mind-blowing 100% success, 100% consensus was achieved, and that was the New Delhi declaration was made. And this lays down the further deeper cooperation between the different countries. So G Summit was indeed, actually, is not only forged the consensus, it produced a clean communique, announced a mega connectivity project around all the countries which you have expert going to speak about it. We welcome the African Union, a bloc of 55 countries with one hammer. 55 countries deemed joined the bloc actually from G20 as a new member, and India was a champion of Global South also. The summit was a diplomatic fair with a flair, and it was crafted and choreographed with a finesse. India proved it can be an east-west bridge, a north-south connector, and a problem solver. India presidency was inclusive, decisive, ambitious, and this was due to the transformative leadership. Honestly, it's a very beautiful word. It was a diplomatic coup, and it was historic. Just see the declaration which came of 83 paragraphs, actually. It was unanimously approved, achieving 100% consensus, even with the China and Russia in agreement. Notably, this declaration stood out by containing no footnotes, no chair summary, making a historic moment from that point of view. And what does this declaration said? It was proposed scaling of inclusive action against climate change, a green development, sustainability goals, administer African Union in a group, put cryptocurrency in a regulated way in the global agenda, and committed to reforming MDB's multilateral development bank. And I'm going to share with you how important, when I use the word MDB, is so important. In my opinion, it's number one thing which government has, all the G20 people have addressed it. So Prime Minister said, united in consensus and spirit, we pledge to work collaboratively for a better, more prosperous and harmonious future. And finally, what is the theme? One Earth, one family, one future. How beautifully it embodies the need to stay united, live peacefully in a healthy world. Just before I end up and talk to my panelists, you will be surprised, in all the G20s, in this time, India had 220 pre-meetings. It happened in 60 cities. There were 200 events. India raised the bar. If you go back in previous country, like where in Indonesia, there were 3 meetings, 2 cities. This time there were 220 meetings, the important it was there. Brand India was visible. And if I summarize it, I just mentioned G20 consists of 80% GDP of the world, 70% of the trade, and 60% of the population. That was G20. And India finally called upon the world community to end the global trust deficit, as it was a time to talk, work together. So this is a small background. It took your time to explain how the G20 there. So I have a panelist with here, basically. We're going to discuss threadbare to the extent of the information we have it, and how this thing happened, how the important thing happened, and for the experience of all the members. So sir, I'll start with Mr. Rajat Saini. The biggest project announced was the connectivity between India, Middle East, Europe. I think none of these government has taken such an ambitious project, announced ambitious project. So you being an info guy, actually, sir, what do you think about this project? How it's going to bring prosperity, basically? What you see future? How much time is going to take it? From where the money is going to come? Everything. And then I'm going to ask you 1 or 2 questions, sir.
Even after that?
Yes, sir. That's a googly, sir.
First of all, thank you so much for a nice primer on G20. You gave a very nuanced analysis. So as far as the kind of corridor that is being, that has been conceptualized and announced, it is not just ambitious, I would say it's an audacious kind of declaration. So if I can relate it to our domestic experience and how it helps, there are 11 industrial corridors conceptualized in India, and one is very, very functional. These corridors are conceptualized on the existing backbone of infrastructure, whether it is expressways, highways, dedicated freight corridor, and the one that has been announced in G20 in Middle East, that would be creating that backbone of infrastructure by way of railway lines, freight corridor, and as well as shipping lines. So it has one more component. I think India would be connected largely by sea, and the other regions within Middle East would be connected by rail, as far as I read in the newspapers. So in India, around a decade back, this was conceptualized on the basis of Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor. So what we have seen by developing this corridor, one, the overall development of the region, and also one more thing that we have seen, the government has built greenfield industrial cities, which precisely my organization does. Already 4 cities are operational, and these cities, so in a normal city there are legacy issues, and then government and people and businesses struggle to get over those issues. These cities are greenfield, built from scratch with the most advanced technology, and not just plug and play, but walk to work concept. So it's, you cannot term them as industrial parks, but these are full-fledged, self-sufficient, holistic cities. You might have heard of a place called Dholera, or in Greater Noida, or in Aurangabad there is a city called Shendra Bitkin, which Honorable Prime Minister inaugurated in 2019. So this is the kind of development which the proposed corridor in G20 in the Middle East, which was announced in G20, can bring. If I can say, it would be a boon for the region, it would be a boon for the people, it would be a boon for the businesses, because the kind of industrial climate this corridor brings, with all its facilities, with very less gestation period for businesses. So what we have seen in Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor, that as I said, I will just round it up, that the overall prosperity of the region has grown because of this corridor.
Thank you so much, sir. Just to add to it, actually this corridor, you'll see that it will foster economic integration between India and Europe is there. It will be an economic bridge between India and the part of the world where you see this corridor is going on. And it is one of the most ambitious infra project, and never, at least from Indian point of view, never initiated. And Indian government signing this at the G20 is something I can tell you, it is a modern day spice route, basically, where you have ports, where you have electricity, you have energy line, you have shipping lines, you have digital cables and everything is there. And one important thing which is the most distinction between this project and the China project was there. In China project, BRI, countries went into the debt trap. Here, the Prime Minister said it, we will make this project financially viable. See, China became trapped. So many countries have got affected. The Prime Minister made a specific statement how we are going to distinguish it, and to see that basically the project can be monetized, and the project, they earn money rather than you bring them into your fold. That's a big difference. Arvind, I want to add something you on this also, what we may have missed, and what do you think about this project actually?
Thanks, Rakesh. I'll add a bit of a geopolitical thought process to the subject. First of all, this initiative, frankly speaking, was not necessarily a G20 initiative. It is a coincidence that all the leaders was present, and therefore it was announced in G20. But from an India perspective, this thought process has been going on for quite some time. And there are certain aspects of this corridor which may not necessarily be so clear right now, but probably I'll shed some light on it. From an India perspective, if you notice, India on the western side and eastern side, is most of it is landlocked. So if we had to carry our products out of west, we have some interesting neighbors who won't let you take it through. So you had to follow a long route, so that's why we were working on Chabhar in Iran. Yeah. That was the option available to India. And in this particular announced initiative now, let's look at the countries involved. You've got UAE, you've got Saudi Arabia, the largest sovereign funds. You've got US, rich and wealthy country, and most importantly, you've got Italy, which is coming out of Europe, Italy, France, and Germany, of course. Now, there are certain aspects of this project which are very beneficial to each country. You said it very well, that when you compare it to China, the single most important difference is Chinese initiative is classified as a coercive initiative. It might appear to be an infrastructure, but it's more like a coercive debt trap. Whereas the Indian initiative is collaborative. Now, from a wealth perspective, people can say, look, India might not have the level of sovereign fund as the other countries have, but India is the largest producer and consumer, which means that the necessity of countries to do trade with India will arise out of all the consumption which will be generated into the India. There's another aspect which people are forgetting. Let's look at the eastern part of India. Even though this corridor focuses more on the western side of it, it's about 8,000 plus kilometers. The another aspect which will open up eventually, that for east of India to trade into west of India, this becomes a pathway. The thought process is eventually Myanmar will become stable. at some point of time. The Southeast Asian countries will have a need and necessity not only to do trade with India, but to use this channel all the way up to Europe. Because this enters into Europe through a port in Greece called Praia. So the objective is, while it might be stated to be an initiative which is originating in India, of course, going all the way up to Europe, and as you said, it is going to be financially self-viable. By the end of the day, you will see over a period of time, the success will be, it will connect the eastern part of India as much as the western part of India to the rest of the world. And without any of the countries falling into that trap. That is the most important aspect. So I will call it as a very, very significant leadership initiative announced in G20, but I'm sure there is a lot of hard work which has gone into it long before. And there's a particular author, I'm forgetting the name, but he had written about this initiative or a thought process long time ago. So sometimes it looks like, you know, it's like a prophecy coming true. So I strongly believe that as is stated that we will be one of the largest producing and consuming countries, you will see a lot of progress coming through this.
This is, from my point of view, this was the #1 initiative taken by India when we had a summit in India, basically. And you see the trade, global trade is going to change it, the cascading effect, the catalyst effect is going to have it. It will be mind-boggling when this project is executed. And the good part, you have a partners now. It's not only one country is taking it. And everybody collectively will take it, see the trade, the services, and everything is going to transform. It could be a very big transformative change taking place in India once the projects go into steam. Piyush, anything we have not missed something we'd like to add? Anything on the project?
No, I think after the true brilliant elucidation, there's nothing much to add. One is just expectant of how fast it happens, because we know that there is only a small part of it within the Saudi corridor which is going to be completed. Then it becomes almost all the infra is already available. So it's not as if it's going to happen in a really distant future, but in very near future. So that's very, very, very hopeful that it really comes into action and really translates into the growth that we're all talking about.
Thank you. Nothing moves forward. Let's move to some intangible. We are talking about infra. What about digital infra? What about digital infrastructure steps taken in G20 basically? What a transformation has taken place in India in terms of digital infrastructure is concerned. I think it's a massive growth. You see the number of transactions going in. You just go to a small person selling 200 rupees a day, 300, see he has got digital assistance with him basically. It's a massive, see the banking is changing. And I think the government, at least this government, has been putting a lot of emphasis in creating digital infrastructure and moving towards digitization at every practical level is there. It's very clear, the mandate of the government is very clear. We know that we can't just left it behind. Rakesh, would you like to add something on the global, on digital infrastructure part is there?
Thanks, Rakesh. Good morning, everyone. I'm sure all of you have heard about digital public infrastructure, and there's a lot of discussion going on around that. But in a simple manner, what is DPI? It is digital building blocks which are interoperable based on open standards and provide APIs for easy integration. And any solution which is using these digital building blocks put together as a solution is the stack. And popularly you hear a lot about India stack. And if you look at India stack, there are 3 layers. The top layer is the identity layer, the next is the payment layer, and the bottom layer is the data layer. So if you look at identity layer, you have applications like Aadhaar. You look at payment layer, you have applications like UPI, an Aadhaar-based payment system. And if you look at the bottom layer, data layer, you have DigiLocker, right, where you can store all the data. Now, there's a great opportunity for governments as well as private enterprises to use the, is this DPI? Or to use these stacks to create your own applications. And just to give you a few applications which are quite unique, you look at Digi Yatra. Those who travel domestic, you all would know the Digi Yatra. Just send your boarding pass and your facial recognition is done at the airport and you have a seamless experience, right? Both at the entry as well as the security, which are the most crowded places. I have traveled around the world. There is no application anywhere in the world which is... This is the data layer being used. So Digi Yatra is an application which the government has come with the private enterprise. Similarly, you look at during the COVID emergency, we came with the CoWIN app for vaccination. Again, very unique. All around the world, in many developed countries, they were carrying physical vaccination certificate, and we could get the vaccination certificate at any point of time digitally, right? Again, using the 3 layers. Now, this technology, I think Government of India has played a very important role to create the infrastructure. But again, from a private enterprise perspective, there are huge opportunities and many companies are taking advantage of it. You look at a company which is the largest brokerage house in India, today is Zerodha. It's the largest broking house. They're completely based on this stack, right? They use onboarding using Aadhaar, and the onboarding experience is seamless. Similarly, you look at from a identity layer, there are other applications like eKYC. Now, banks used to do KYC in India, it used to cost them $12. Today, using this stack, it costs 6 cents. You can imagine the amount of cost savings, right? Government of India says they are saving 1.1% of GDP because of this digital stack to provide services. And you see what are the benefits we are all getting. It is efficiency, it is transparency, financial inclusion, empowerment of citizens. Now all the citizens feel, although you put the data in the cloud, the data is still owned by you, right? You can access your DigiLocker, share your Aadhaar with anybody, right? As well as it is driving a lot of economic growth. And this stack, although appears very reasonable, cheap, scales up to 1.2 billion population. And if I share some numbers of the number of transactions happening, till date 67 billion digital identifications have been done. In a month, we do $14 trillion rupees of mobile payments in a month, and 8.9 billion transactions in a month, right? Now, from a G20 perspective, now this technology is available. India is making it available to all the countries, G20 as well as other countries. And it is not necessary that all the 3 stacks have to be used. Like, for example, in many developed countries, identity stack is already solved. You have social security number, but you can still use the UPI stack or the data layer, right? And we are helping, as a country, we are helping all the neighboring countries to set it up, providing technical assistance, as well as whatever infrastructure support they need to roll this out. I think it's a great business opportunity for all the companies to start looking at this stack and see how you can leverage this stack and take advantage of the digital infrastructure which the country is creating.
I'll just add a word what you said. There was a growth of 44% of digital transaction grew in the month of July this year, in 1 month.
And of all the transactions happening today in India, 68% of digital transactions go through the UPI. Few years back, you could not believe, because the only digital transaction was either a bank transfer, which you have to log in and do, or you use a credit or a debit card, right? Today, 68% of the digital transaction happen through the UPI stack.
And finally, just to add to it, just to give a last flavor to it, is the government is very committed. Is a private businessman doing it, but government at its own level is extremely committed to move towards digitization and build up the digital infrastructure. Just think about the bank accounts which have been opened in villages. Just think about the money lying there. It's the billions which was lying in cash in the villages, all have moved to the bank. If you use digitization, the money hits your bank, it remains there. You invest it, you earn interest out of it, you save, actually. And the government guess is you're moving to a cashless economy. I think it's, again, a blockbuster G20 initiative and success rate. So you like to add something, being again an infrastructure guy, on digital side this time, from hardcore to digital side, sir.
So whatever Rakesh said is obviously very widely known, and it has gained appreciation globally. There are 2-3 other things which government has been doing, which may be termed as a kind of a silent revolution, which we don't get to see. The discussion hasn't yet started amongst businesses or private players or general public. There's something called PM Gati Shakti, which all of us have heard over here, where we have mapped each and every infrastructure, physical infrastructure, that is available in India, whether it's a small village road or even a small primary school or an Anganwadi center or an expressway or railway line. And through this we are now identifying the small gaps that are remaining. And this kind of approach can also be used in the initiative that was announced in G20 for Middle Eastern Corridor. And I think that would help in implement, because as I heard, there is already some infrastructure available. So we maybe everything would not be built new. So this kind of approach will help in identifying the gaps and completing the project much faster and maybe at a lesser cost. So this is about the infrastructure part. There is also something called United Logistic Interface Platform, ULIP, where all the logistic data anywhere which is being generated in 34 systems in various ministries is being brought on one place. And what are those data? All the national highway data, any vehicle that is passing any toll gate, all the GST data of every e-way bill that is being generated in India, each and every vehicle data in Vahan or a driver's data in Sarthi, all the ports data, all the railways data, all the post data, all airport data. So whole data is coming onto one platform. It is yet to be open to public. And then using this platform, the logistic companies, the manufacturers, anybody who is anywhere in the supply chain can leverage this data and identify the inefficiencies in the supply chain. And through this so like as of now, through various studies we see India has 14% is the logistic cost. In developed countries, in Canada it may be 6 to 8%. So we aim to come from 14% to 7 to 8% using initiatives like PM Gati Shakti and ULIP. So these are some of the things which government is doing, maybe not so much in the news, but I think will have a very, very significant impact and a sustained impact on businesses in India.
Thank you, sir. Another very big change which India initiated is Global South. What is Global South? Global South, if you see the south of the whole world, is little less developed or poor countries, including Africa part is there. So India became a champion of Global South, and this championship was demonstrated when they, in one stroke, they said African Union joins G20. As one, you become G21. But the latent position is this: you have 55 countries. Earlier there was only one country, which is the African country, was a member. Now 54 countries as single bloc joins G20. And India was the champion. India took the lead. Just imagine the position India may leverage because of this relationship, actually, including seeking position in UN Security Council. That's what Prime Minister has started making a voice. How do we pick up after 20 years of being rejected because by consensus? This is one of the leverage which hopefully the government will take it to ask for this position in a UN Security Council, basically. And see what happens when you say what the Prime Minister said: no plan for the future of the planet can be successful without the recognition and representation of all voices. This was the reason when he took African Union into the whole fold, actually. Think about Africa, 3 trillion economy. It has rich in resources, and hence Africa cannot be left unrepresentative. Africa is 1/5 of the global humanity, cannot remain unrepresented on the global stage. Interests on Global South were upfront in every domain of the discussion to make the trade fairer to weaker countries, increasing lending capacity, food security, debt forgiveness. Even this thing is there, basically, that's there. So this is something which I would say, Arvind, something on African Union, and anybody have any questions, you can raise it. We want to be interactive, right? It'll be good. Yes, after Arvind, yeah, then we'll hear you, basically, yes.
So, very well said, Rakesh. I mean, you hardly leave anything for me to add because, but the best part is it's always good to have such a moderator, so you have to talk as little as possible. So in my mind, I'm always negating what you've already spoken, but if I just put it up, you know, Africa is 1.4 billion people, which is almost equal to India and China. And the most important aspect, I'll come back to the same point again, it is voluntary inclusion without demanding anything in return from Africa. It's not that India put conditions. I will support you, vote you, and you include. And if you hear the voices of the African leaders, most of them said, you know, they were in tears. Some said, I couldn't believe it will happen on day one of G20, so on and so forth. The importance of Africa has been long, I will say, I won't say ignored, I'll say at least misunderstood. It's a country which is, it's a continent which is full of natural resources, but most importantly, I think we always focus on the economic side of relationship, but why do we forget 1.4 billion people live there? So they need to be represented. So irrespective of their advantage from a mineral perspective or business aspects of a relationship, it ultimately is one part of humanity which was not being recognized in G20, and that can't happen. So I think this initiative will go a long way in establishing India's credibility, which comes immediately after vaccine diplomacy, which was also very well received. We now need to see how India leverages this new gained collective acceptance, ultimately for a collective success of everybody who's part of G20 and rest of the world.
Thank you. Yes, you had a question.
Sir, my name is Sanjay. I'm a journalist. My question is, we talked about BRI. 10 years when BRI was launched with more than 150 countries are already a part of it. Now this new announcement, when BRI was started, China was the one which is funding one country, one decision, one leadership. And here we are talking about possibly 3 continents, coming together and forming this economic corridor. Firstly, there's no clarity or sort of information about the funding. Where is the money going to come from? Secondly, trade is always a contentious issue. We always see between the countries having issues with FTA, India, Canada, India, UK, all these countries. How is that going to be sort of smoothed out?
Yeah. So first, what happens when you have a road or corridor, you make it easy for you. See the gain actually rather than the losses actually. See the trade actually which you're going to increase it. See the reach it becomes. See the time you're going to save it. See the pollution you're going to, climate change you're going to bring it actually. And Canada, if you see compared to China, we have started talking, we don't want to compare to BRI now. See what is the consequence of BRI. How many countries from Maldives to Mauritius to Sri Lanka, so many countries goes to the African countries, all are talking about debt trap. Here I said in the beginning also, multilateral development banks, which I'm going to speak a little later, how they will be used to make them lend the money, capitalize those companies, make the project financially viable, and monetize them. So this is the difference between that. And it's a huge world, you can have 2 corridors actually. And you use it basically, maybe the India trade, India will be the biggest beneficiary. It originates from India. You see, it starts from South India, west of India basically. So India is could be among the biggest beneficiary out of that. Is that?
Let me add one more aspect to it. First of all, it's wrong to compare the two.
Yes.
It's not, India has not brought this initiative in competition to BRI. I mean, of course, India and China are seen as competitors, so everything they talk is treated as competition. It's not a competition to BRI. And secondly, you said it right. You said it yourself. BRI is a Chinese-driven initiative, one-way traffic. And don't forget, they promise to invest, but it is by way of very expensive loans, which most of the contracts go back to Chinese companies, so the money travels back to China. And the countries who've taken the debt will probably pay for generations. The most important difference is, as I mentioned, coercive versus collaborative. This is a collaborative initiative where each country has committed capital to make this successful. And so long as there is an initiative, it will succeed. Because the difference between the two is, this will be driven by the trade need. And I can add one more thing, High Commissioner, you had briefly touched upon it. When you have smoothened trade, it smoothens your relationship automatically. Because when your trade drives the conversation, the political differences take a back seat. So that is the most important aspect. In this particular corridor, India and Middle East Saudi, UAE, will have a lot more understanding beyond what they have today, because now it will be driven by trade. And when the trade happens, everything else becomes quiet. So look at the other aspects of it.
Thank you so much, Arvind. That was really wonderfully said. I think in the whole G20, you see one of the topic which got a media coverage where the governments are concerned globally is a climate change, sustainability. Never in the history ever you've seen, just rewind yourself 3 years, 5 years back, we never used to talk so much about climate change than what we started talking now. And the impact on the environment is there. You cannot afford to see the temperature going up. And the one classical thing, just rewind yourself, see the climate change taking place worldwide in previous 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Never you seen such changes taking place. And it has been talked, and this G20 summit is there. Piyush, would you like to add something on this?
No, I think this is the core agenda, right, on climate change. And it's not going to be easy to do what we are all trying to achieve, because it's quite obviously an uneven hand, right? There is a share of carbon footprint which developed countries have, and a share of carbon footprint that countries like India have, which is still in the growing and developing phase. The critical announcement on the Global Biofuel Alliance, I think that's it's not a easy thing what they're trying to achieve, because it's a very, very contentious subject, right? And every country has a different mandate, and every country has a different agenda. But on climate change, one of the biggest agreements is that it is the most essential thing to do for preserving where we live, right? It's only one world that we have, we don't have another. So while there is agreement on the direction, while there is agreement on where we need to be, there is still difference of opinion on how fast and how committed we should be and who does what, right? I think in the current G20, we have moved few paces ahead on who does what, but we still need to do a lot more in terms of really committing and creating accountabilities on the multilateral world on achieving what we are intending to achieve, particularly in direction of the Paris climate agreement.
Rakesh, would you like to add something on this climate?
Thanks Piyush and Rakesh. I think there is, as Rakesh mentioned, there's a lot of focus. I think there'll be few areas where there's be a lot of opportunities. One is around clean energy. Second is around sustainable transport. And I think there's great opportunity for India and Canada to work together. Canada is considered as a world leader in clean energy. So there are a lot of opportunities for the two countries to work together, as well as the companies to collaborate and do a lot of work in this space. CGI as a Canadian company in India, we are focused on climate change. We as a company, we have committed globally that we'll be net zero by 2030. We have a lot of initiatives globally, as well as in India. We are doing a lot of work around, especially our operations, how we can make it sustainable. We have 12 offices in India, and out of that, 50% of the offices run on renewable energy. And we are working on other offices, how do we convert. We are rated as, by EcoVadis, we are rated as platinum rated, top 1% of the companies who are highly sustainable. And I think all of us have a role to play in this based on our sphere of influence. So we are very focused on, as a company, how do we contribute to sustainability. We have recently launched a platform called CGI for Good, which is a volunteering platform for all our employees, how they can volunteer in this space of sustainability. We launched with Tamil Nadu government something called as Eco Champs, which is really learning resources to train youngsters, young students on sustainability. How can we make resources available in the local environment so that children are educated about sustainability and they can start behaving in a sustainable manner right from the beginning. So I think governments will do a lot of things and it will take time. As corporations, I think we can move faster and align ourselves to contribute to the sustainability goal.
Thank you. Just to add, to finish this topic, actually the G20 was a unanimous decision taken that they will have to reduce unabated coal power while boosting clean energy generation. G20 will try to triple renewable capacity by 2030 and focus on tech development and towards low carbon emissions. The world, they recognize it as a quote unquote, the world is facing unprecedented climate emergency, droughts, floods, storms, fires, are becoming frequent all over the world, and we're seeing it, we're watching it actually. And you need to see that the plan is very clear. They need to phase down coal power. Even just till 2030, $6 trillion of money is required for this objective, which G20 has not committed. I can't use the word committed, but this is the amount that's required if you have to achieve the targets is there. And and the same line, Biofuel Alliance, first time has been discussed in this hour, to make carbon neutral, basically, how you make the world carbon neutral, basically. You will find that the environmental impact and the damage, you'll realize it after some time, actually, when the damage cannot be undone, actually. At least this is an awakening. You will be talking about it, but this is becoming an awakening, mandatory process for global companies. In India, too, the listed companies, top 150 companies, they have to go for all these compliances mandatorily, where every listed company in Europe is there. Their entire supply chain has to be ESG compliant, basically. Whole supply chain. If I have 100 suppliers, all 100 suppliers have to be compliant to ESG. This is an awakening, this is a call, this is the importance which the government worldwide, there's no exception, are conscious about it to address these challenges there. So I'll start with the final statement, then I won't speak right now. A final statement before, and any questions, we'll be happy to take questions. With the limited knowledge we have it, we will be happy to share with it. Any questions, anything? No. Yeah, I mean, no, I think I don't see any hand.
So on sustainability, the most important aspect, as I always say, is that while the G20 has made a commitment which will automatically drive the countries to enforce certain legislative procedures and processes, and some of the companies, for example, our companies anyway following a lot of initiatives towards becoming green, but our customers, for example, have started imposing a lot more requirements that how can you help me being green? If you go back to a customer and mention that, look, I am taking all steps to be carbon neutral. Most of my customers, which are like aircraft manufacturers, they actually give you a preference. So this forum at a government level, when they make commitment, will automatically drive certain legislative and government actions which will actually make this initiative faster. That's in a summary which is the most important takeaway from this subject.
Let me just throw a question to everyone. Do you believe a new and better world will be seen once such cooperation gets translated into action? Will this type of global declaration bring peace and friendliness in the world? Is the world heading towards a peaceful environment and work to resolve and bring peace and tranquility and togetherness? And do you see the world a better place to live, where issues like climate change, taxes, war is not the solution? There is some thought process coming up basically, and I need to touch you on very important on the MDB, the multilateral bank. Somebody asked from where the money is going to come actually. $200 billion are the money which is required to be committed in this decade for multilateral banks. And this amount of money will become, they're talking about it, they're talking about the framework, contribution, formula, and everything. And this money will be used for the development of the corridor is concerned. They believe if your institution lending it not has a good framework, does not have money, everything will crumble, actually will fall like a pack of cards. This is again a very big difference from BRI China project is concerned, where you'll find the projects becoming viable and where the money is going to come from basically. And I can add one thing, the world is heading towards taxation where everybody will be taxed. Tax haven will finish, is almost over. Every country in the world will pay 15% taxes, which is the global almost coming up, and the G20 has recognized that basically. So I just want to, the G20 wants there should be a labor force participation by the gender gap. They want women labor force which will be 25% by 25, 50% by 2030. And finally, they also said countering money laundering and terrorism will be other thing which they had talked and unanimously agreed, and crypto regulations. Just to let you add it, it was turned down by Supreme Court in India, it is not illegal, and the world could not declare it as illegal. So they're building a framework actually. They're not saying it is legal, but they're building a framework how it can run by discouraging it. rather than by banning it and making it like an illegal use. So this is also, so they like in India has tax 30% on crypto earning, your taxes are 30%. So they're making it difficult to use it, but they felt that they cannot control it. This was also resolved by G20. So final comment, sir.
I think all the points have been very well covered. Just to summarize, not just the G20 part, the initiatives that have been taken in G20. These are not just promises. Many things amongst them, India is already working on it, has implemented some of the things, and these are some of the tried and tested best practices that India, using this global forum like G20, would like the world also to take benefit of such technologies, such best practices, and is trying to take it in a desired direction. I think that is all from my
That's
side.
very well summarized, sir. Rakesh, for you.
I was recently in Canada, Montreal, just came back earlier this Monday, and just wanted to share, I think I spoke earlier about digital public infrastructure. I think all of us have to recognize that India, obviously the G20 was a huge success. India has taken leadership in various areas. Many times in the last 100 years, we have been always thinking about India being a follower, right? In the digital infrastructure, I think India has taken a leadership. We should recognize that and feel proud about it and work together, both in the private enterprise as well as in the government, to share that knowledge as well as take that forward across the country. And what I was sharing is I was meeting my CEO in Montreal, and we had a review for our plans and targets for next year. The story he shared with my leadership team was about Chandrayaan landing in the south pole of moon, and India having achieved that. I know all of us feel very proud about it. India having achieved that successfully when Russia's lander crashed. And I think the biggest inspiration is India having achieved that in a fraction of the investment, right? I don't think it was, what we did was very unique. All the elements were already known. How we brought it together and landed in where nobody else had landed before in a very cost-efficient manner. That is innovation, right? And we landed in, if you followed, there are a lot of learnings for corporations out of this. We landed in Moon in $70 million, which is less than the budget for many Hollywood movies who create fiction around landing in Moon, right? So I think there is huge learning from there, where Western leaders and everybody is talking about inspiration, how you can get inspiration out of it and drive the agenda forward, either in your corporate life or in your government infrastructure, what we are trying to do. I think we should take pride in that and look at opportunities where we can lead the world and work together with our India-Canada partnership and to create that environment of leadership around the world.
Yes, Piyush.
I think I'm going to echo the High Commissioner's words, and this is like a coming out party for India, right? So we have always recognized the growth that we have been achieving in India, and a lot of spaces, as Rakesh said, that we have leadership, not just here in Global South, but really globally. This was a great opportunity to showcase that globally and recognized as leaders in many spaces. I think that's a big achievement. The brand India that shines out and signs out as a leader and not a follower is a really big achievement. I think a learning for all of us as corporates is how do we take that and benefit from that halo effect and use it to drive growth both for our corporates and learn a lot of where the world is going and how do we really incorporate a lot of those SDG goals and a lot of the ESG fundamentals into our work plans. I think that's the foundation of it. And as corporates, we have a lot to do on sustainability. While the world has agreed on the directions, there's a lot of incremental work that we need to do as corporates, and I think that's part of our plans. And quite obviously, as strong partners, India and Canada have a lot to do together in that space. And of course, we all look forward to that fantastic world that we live in.
So just to end to this session, any last questions? Any questions? I don't see anything. Just to summarize everything, basically, this New Delhi declaration was a blockbuster event for Indian government. Never seen, I can't recall it in last couple of decades. We have seen such a massive summit, declarations, success, prestige, worldwide acknowledgement, global leaders being there. I think it was a sea changer, basically, for India is concerned. And it was a because you focus on US sustainability development, most important decision taken, climate changes, climate initiatives, investment, multilateral bank, terrorism, international taxation, artificial intelligence, digital infrastructure, physical infrastructure. Was a summit basically. And you have 80% of GDP. It was a mind blockbuster event of G20 success in India. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for patient hearing.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rakesh. It was a very, very interesting session. Thanks to each and every one of you. And thanks, Rakesh, for being a great moderator. I think you brought out all the key, always. Thank you. So with this, we have an end to this. Please, there's lunch served. Enjoy yourselves. A few photographs that we will have requested with the High Commissioner quickly in 5 minutes. He has a hard stop, so he'll have to leave in 5 minutes. One request, please don't take any pictures with your mobiles. We have a cameraman here. Just he will, and we will see to it that we send the photographs to you. So just no mobiles for your photographs with the High Commissioner. Or with, I mean, no for, okay. So no, mobile photographs only with the cameraman. Thank you all for being here with us once again, and all the very best. Have a great day. Come. So first, can I just request our board, national board? Yeah. Yeah, why don't you have it? Yeah, come. So one with I think one with the panelists wanted. Yeah. Just one sec, Rakesh. One with the panelists.
Quickly. It's the easiest thing to do.
One with the panel.
Yeah. Arun, do quickly. Arun.
Tell us.
That's okay. It's okay.
Be careful. High Commissioner has to be quickly. Okay, I'm also here. Come. Done? You can take one more. Quickly. Thank you. Come down to board. Sandeep. Where's Sandeep? Come. Jamin is here.
Jamin Shah.
All the board. Can we have the board directors? Anyone else? There's only Jamin is missing, right? Everybody else? But I think we should tell. We'll get late at
Everyone in?
Yes, one. The balance.
Jamin's come.
Gujarati.
आपके बिना नहीं चलती है गुजरात टीम है लेकिन प्रेसिडेंट तो होने चाहिए
Shivani, get the team, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good, very good.